Ringo Lingo in the chat. Do you hear what Saquon Barkley said about Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah.
I did, as a matter of fact. Called him a top 2 running back.
Yeah, he said his top 3 running backs in the NFL, he kept himself out of it. He said it's Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Bijan Robinson.
So there you have that, everybody. That tells you. D-Mac, you've said this since I've known you. The fan votes are nice. That's great and everything like that. But when your peers put you up at that level, there's no bigger high, I would imagine.
That's really all that matters is where do your peers, what do your peers think of you, right? Even more so, yeah, it's nice to get what other organizations or general managers or scouts or whatever with their opinion, but no, because it brings everything in, right? It brings locker room in. What's the first thing? Okay, I'll ask you guys this rhetorically. What do you think one of the first question is? Right, and we'll use, for example, there's a big press conference that's going to be going on with Luka Doncic, and we saw the trade. Mm-hmm. First question in the locker room or whatever is, what's the dude like? Not how's he play, what's he like? What kind of guy is he? What kind of human being? That's what people want to know to begin with as far as athletes go. So talent-wise, everything else, but it's how you're looked at. And really, it's the respect of how you go about your craft.
Gibbs seems like a real cool dude, too. Like, just chill guy.
Right, the way that he carries himself. Yeah. That goes along to it also. Now, talent's a big thing, but your peers take that also into consideration. Unless, they'll flat out come out and say, right, he's a friggin' asshole. Mm-hmm. But great player. Whether you like him on your team. Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Claude Lemieux. Right? So there's another example. But guys, you want to know what kind of guy he is in the locker room. But I think that's just more work ethic and respect. Respect from a guy who's saying it too.
Yep.
Right? Really the top running back in the league.
Well, and it goes back to everything else that we've talked about, and I've talked about with Brad Holmes. He got compensated to take him. Traded back, took his guy. You know what I'm saying? Got compensated to take him, and got compensated to take Jared Goff. It's wild when you recreate everything.
Well, you look at the deal that it was, and you look at, Bijan Robinson, highly touted, high draft pick and stuff like that. It's supposed to be what it is. Jahmyr Gibbs, a lot of people, right? The jury was still out. But the jury isn't out when it comes to Brad Holmes. And that's I think that's a great segue, Neal, because as we're getting, months away from the draft, this is the guy that you have in charge of your team.
No question about it. But go ahead and jump in there, get your thoughts out there as well in the Woodward Sports chat thread. Here's one, look, usually I like to chop it up and he about stuff. Tommy Williamson in the chat. At least we get some real sports talk now. The flagship was talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown and picks for Myles Garrett. And,
all right.
Okay. Guys, we're going to do this again. And I can take it. I'll do this every single day.
Hey, yo.
I don't care. Pause. Delayed pause there. Yeah. No, but guys, your fantasy league's not real life. A trade machine is not real life. You don't know what people's intents are. You don't know what they want. We take the Luka Doncic thing.
Yeah.
All right. I got a text from one of my buddies in college sports, and he's like, "Explain this to me on the Mavericks end." And I was like, "It's very simple." And for real, it's very simple. Yeah. And we touched on this yesterday, and we'll go back to it. And I think it applies to the Myles Garrett thing. The Mavericks' thought process was simple. We're going to move this guy. We don't like him. We're moving him.
Right.
We have Kyrie for a finite amount of time. How can we still compete for a championship? I don't want 4 picks in the 2028 draft.
Right.
I have Kyrie now. What's my best path forward? And you have to think of it from the perspective, too. Anybody that's taking Luka, do they have a superstar player to give you? No. They don't. So, again, this goes back to the Myles Garrett thing. You got to understand markets and everything like that. So if you're the Mavericks and you say, we still want to compete this year, but we want to get rid of this guy, he's not our future. He's a cancer. We're getting rid of him. So if you look at it from that perspective, okay, we want to go get someone that can play now, that's elite now, that gives us a chance to win now. What was that market? For real.
It wasn't a lot.
You see what I'm saying here?
Because most teams are trading their franchise players.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if it eliminates the market and you're the Mavericks and you're not interested in draft capital, you want to win now, that's really the only deal you can make.
Right.
For real, D-Mac, like when you work through it backwards, what else could they really do? They still want to win. Anthony Davis was the closest thing in their mind that's going to give them a shot to win. Are they the favorite to win it? No. Are they going to win it? Probably not, but neither are the Lakers.
Well, you made the great point. The team that's willing to get rid of a high-level star like that, and how many teams were in that conversation? Is it the same thing as that you're looking with the Suns with Booker or stuff like there's only a couple names. The biggest surprise to me is I didn't know that LA was in the market to shop Anthony Davis, and I don't know if they knew they were in the market either,
right? Until
Dallas came calling, right?
Yeah. I don't even think that Cleveland would want Amon-Ra St. Brown with his contract. Obviously you would want Amon-Ra St. Brown the player, but can they afford Amon-Ra St. Brown with what they're doing with
Why
Deshaun
would they
Watson?
want him?
You have no quarterback.
They're trying to blow it up.
Yeah,
They want as many picks as possible.
Right.
They want to draft their own Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right. And not now, not right this second.
No.
They have Deshaun Watson for $170 million in dead cap or whatever it is this year.
And he doesn't play.
And $90 million next year.
Right.
And he's got 2 ruptured Achilles and 100 cases. That's.
And he got benched
I
at the end of the year.
did it. I forgot he popped his other Achilles.
You know what I'm saying? They're dead. They're dead in the water. And the only way through is draft capital. And to wrap this all back together, it goes back to what we were just talking about, D-Mac, with Brad Holmes in the draft. If you look at the Eagles, everyone talks about the A.J. Brown trade, right? Because that's fantasy stuff. That's the fantasy life. You know why they're good? Here's why they're good.
2 dogs on that defensive line.
Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis,
Nakobe Dean.
Yeah. That's just on defense. They drafted Jalen Hurts, in the second round?
Devontae Smith.
They drafted him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know you love it, and I know we live for it, and I know when trades happen, it breaks the internet. But that ain't how you get good. And I say ain't for a fact. Hat tip Brian Ermanni. That's not how it works, D-Mac. That flies in the face to everything.
You got to set a foundation in the draft first, and then you trade for an A.J. Brown. Then you trade for Myles Garrett. Then you trade for somebody to put you over the top like the San Francisco 49ers did with Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey. But, yeah, the Cleveland Browns need to trade as many people and get as many picks as they possibly can because they are fucked until Deshaun Watson gets off
They
their
are
books.
sitting out the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Sitting it out.
So I guess the question is with Garrett and Cleveland, who can offer the most picks, I guess.
And that's what it's going to come down to.
It comes down to
Right. Yeah.
a couple first, second
Couple
or third.
first.
I don't know what
Also got to put him in a good situation because that's where he said he wanted to go, and you don't want to set the precedent that you just fuck your players like that. So it's got to be a compromise.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And so it flies. And Rando Small's in the super chat. Shout out to him. Wanting to trade for Garrett, it goes against everything Brad stands for, right? And Rando, to what we've seen so far, but you have to remember now the paradigm has shifted
They're
for the
in different
Lions.
waters.
Yeah, I think now is the time where this is really up to it because this is next level for how he can dip into his draft because he's set himself up so well. What did we always talk about last week? You're only drafting or trying to go out and get specific position players because you have NFL players at mostly every position with some legitimate backups. How do I know that? Well, I saw that with as many guys on the IR this year. So I think this just adds another layer that if Brad Holmes wants to dabble in this, he can. Hasn't been in this position. Last year, even if this was a year earlier, I don't think he'd be in this position to do that because they're still building. But no, that lets you know that you're further along, right? Because you can entertain these conversations only the best teams can when they're ready. And I think that this conversation, because it's the specific piece, and you're talking about getting rid of first rounders from this year, next year, whatever that draft is, Brad Holmes is your gatekeeper, bro. So he can at least have this conversation if that's the way he wants to go. To add a Myles Garrett on defense with what you already have, if works out, I mean, isn't that a no-brainer? The conversation's a no-brainer.
Correct.
Not
correct.
the move, because then when it comes down to it, there might be somebody else willing to give. Like, what are we talking here, Neal? Like, first rounder this year, first rounder next year.
Two
Is
first
there a
and-
second rounder in
Yeah.
there? Is there, like, how many
Do you have to go to a third first rounder to get your bid to the top of the list?
So-
Like
or-
these are the
Maybe,
things you
yeah,
have to take
maybe.
into account.
where that's where I would say you'd have to weigh the pros and the cons, where it gets into that third one, that's another team, right, which is around where you are, can go there because they have those resources. But my big thing is you're in the conversation. I guarantee there's conversation going on.
100%. And I think we've learned that this weekend. There are conversations going on that nobody knows about. Even
I would-
Myles Garrett doesn't know about. Luka Doncic didn't know about it.
I would think that out of any time in the history of the Detroit Lions, if this could be reality, right? Just like it was back in the day with the Red Wings when, you name a guy and you wanted him and you could get him.
Right.
This is reality. I think if we really want Myles Garrett, and it fits in with the direction and it doesn't, cost you some things that you were banking on in the draft, whether it was this year or next year, right? What I also like, Neal, as I'm talking this out, Brad Holmes is real good later in the draft too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drafting guys that can get on the field.
Yeah.
So you put that in, like, lets you know that you're at the top of the league, or you're in a different class or an elite class when you're having these conversations. And that's all I want to be a part of.
The flagship this morning was talking about, would you do 2 first-round picks and an Amon-Ra St. Brown for Myles Garrett? And it's disingenuous, and it's something that Cleveland would never be interested in. They have Deshaun Watson immovable. Immovable. The dead cap hit is nauseating for 2 more years. The third year they can do it. So with that being said, like, they're not interested in that. So it comes back down to it where all they want is draft picks, D-Mac. It's got to be. There's nothing else that makes sense. Nothing else that makes sense.
Well, it is the Cleveland Browns. So.
Oh, fair. That's fair. Dad with Tourette's, and I compared it to the Luka trade with the Dallas Mavericks and the Lakers, where the Mavericks' goals were different. They wanted to still compete this year, compete for a championship. And when you survey the landscape, how many dudes could you go get for real right now?
Maybe 2.
Maybe if they were available.
Yeah.
So, again, guys, like that's their goal. I'm not saying they're a championship favorite. My best guess is that that's their thought process. We're going to get rid of this cancer that we'd have to pay $340 million to a guy that's weighing 270 pounds or whatever it is, that doesn't seem to take fitness all that seriously. And you've seen video of it. Like, it's not. Spenny talked about it, that video of the finals where he's flopping around with 5 fouls.
That was the foreshadow.
And then yelling at the bench, better effing challenge it.